Hey guys, in this video I will show you how you can create this image. You can find the images that I used in the description of the video. Before I get into this video, make sure to check out my new website. I created courses to learn Photoshop. These courses are really slow and in detailed because the videos on YouTube are sometimes quite quick. So make sure to check those out. I will leave a discount code in the description of the video so you can get a discount on my courses. All right, let's start from the very beginning by going to File and select New to create a new file. Now, for the size, I want to use something like portrait mode. So I'm going to use 2 times the size of Instagram. This. The resolution doesn't matter here. Resolution is only for print and all the other settings are fine. So let's create a new file. Okay, first of all, let's import our sniper. Just drag it in this file and press enter. So we have it here as a smart object, as you can see. Now let's move it a bit down. And if we want to resize this, we can press Command on the Mac or Control on Windows and T. And now we can just resize this to make this a bit bigger because this is like the most important thing in our composite, this guy here with the sniper. So I want to make sure he's big enough. So something like this is fine. Maybe move it a bit here. So we have enough space here to put some other stuff. Right now, let's make the background black because we want to create a dark scene. So I'm gonna press Ctrl I or Command I on Mac to invert the color of the background. All right, next thing to do is to import the image of the fire. So just drag it also here and make it bigger to make it fit this image. Now, I don't want to use this house here. I just want to use the flames that are coming from this house. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna rotate this a bit like it's coming from the left side. Let's see, let's move it a bit like that. And try to find some nice spot for this fire. You can see here, it's really difficult to see, but here's where the image ends and you want to get rid of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Command L or Control L to bring up the levels. Then select this black picker tool and click on this. And now you can see it's gone. So that way we just gave Photoshop the information that that area needs to be the black one, right? So now we can move this around. And let's also change blend mode here to screen. With screen, we don't see the blacks anymore. So after that, if we import another image behind it, we will see that image. So let's put some flames, maybe like this here, and press Ctrl Command J to duplicate it and to make some more flames here. You can eventually even rotate this a bit more if you want. Try to pick some nice spots for the flames. The important thing here is to have also flames coming like in front of him so we can create some nice reflections. So something like this would be even better. And let's just move it a bit here. And this is fine for now. We can always just move those around later on if we want to make it different. All right, next thing to do is we need to make sure that we get some nice reflections from these flames on this person. To create these reflections from these flames on this person, we need to create some sort of rim lights, light reflections. And these light reflections need to be the same color as the light in the background. So in this case, it's something orange, yellowish like that. So let's first make sure this person is a bit darker. So what I'm going to do is click on the layer of the sniper and go here and select curves. And with the curves, we can make areas lighter or darker. So if we take the higher point here, these are the highlights, and bring them down, we can bring down the highlights of this image. But we only want to affect this layer underneath it. So we need to press this button here. So we don't affect the flames, but only this person. And now we can see here, we can make them darker. So let's make them a bit darker, not too much. So something like this. Now we need to make sure he's only dark at this side because there we have flames and we need to make sure this light is gonna come on these parts. So what I'm going to do is click on the mask of these curves, then select the brush and just select a normal brush, general brush from Photoshop, soft round brush. Make sure the hardness is at 0 and the opacity and flow is 100%. And now next thing what I want to do is to start brushing. So make sure you have black selected as a color. Instead of white, with black we removing areas from this mask. So let's start with brushing. You can see here these parts here and bit here. Just a little bit extra light on these parts. And let's also do his hand here, because we get light coming there. Also here on the sniper, maybe a bit here, his finger, not too much, and a bit here. And that's pretty much it. And now we can even change this curve to make it even darker or lighter. But I think this looks fine. Now, next thing to do is to make some nice colored reflections from this. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer, press right mouse and create a clipping mask. And if we create a clipping mask, we only work inside the area of this sniper in this case. So let's now select a color here and let's sample some color from these flames. Something orange, maybe a bit more orange. Something in the same range as these flames. Press OK. And now we can just select a normal brush again, like this, and start brushing these areas here. So let's first do it like this. Brush these areas here, maybe a bit here, just to make sure where these flames are. So not here, because we don't have flames on top, so we don't brush that area here. Just a bit here, maybe here. And let's also do the sniper here. Just a bit of these. And next thing to do is to see if this looks good. We're going to change the blend mode here from normal to overlay. And now you can see we eventually don't really see it, so we need to brush a bit more here. So let's brush it even deeper inside this person. Like that. Maybe also here on his hand. Get some nice orange reflections from these flames. You can also do this gun here if you want. And let's do a bit more here. Let's also do some here. And now you can see this starts to look really good with this background. It blends a lot better than without these colors. Let's do a bit here. And you can even do it here if you want. Don't do it too much. Try to pick some spots that are getting light. And if you don't, if it doesn't look good, just brush it away with the eraser like that. So the best way is to just brush a lot, and after that use the eraser to get rid of some parts to make it better. Maybe not here. So I think this looks fine. Maybe less here. So something like this. All right, let's do a bit more brushing here so we get some highlights here. So for this, I want to create a new layer first. Press right mouse and create a clipping mask. Now, if you go to edit, select fill, we can select 50% gray here, press OK, and we have like this layer with 50% gray. And if we change the blend mode to overlay, we only see what we are doing inside this layer with the brush. So for this, I want to select a brush now. And this time I'm going to pick something orange yellow again, but almost too white. So it's like really light now. Something like this in this range. And if we brush now, you can see we get these nice highlights coming out. So for this, we can make the edge a bit lighter with this. So just brush these edges a bit lighter. So we get some nice colors, highlights popping out. Don't do it too much, just a little bit on some places to create some highlights here and there. Maybe here on his hand, like that, a bit here. And maybe a bit here from this fire in the background. Just a bit of this brushing to make this whole look better. Maybe in between here, something like this, maybe here on this back. And that's pretty much it. And now we have a little bit more depth with these highlights. We will add some more depth later on, but let's just first do this brushing here. I think this is fine. Maybe don't need to even do this part. just a couple of these areas to get some highlights. All right, let's move on to the next stage. Now we can start with adding the background here. I have this photo of this building that you can just open this up in Photoshop. And if you go to select subject, it will automatically make this selection of this building. This is fine. The only thing I would like to change here is to make sure the selection goes a bit more inside this building so we don't get like these white borders here. So for this, I'm going to go to select, modify, and select contract. And with contract, we can select the pixels, amount of pixels that it goes inside this selection. So let's do maybe 3. This is fine. You can see here it goes inside this, and let's make a mask. Now you can see we have still like these areas here that are white. So if you really want to go into details, you can press right mouse and try to get rid of these with this brush. So this is really something if you want to make like everything perfect and without flaws, you can do that. But I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to leave it like this, press OK. So now we have this selection, and what I want to do now is to press right mouse and convert this to a smart object. So that way we have a smart object and we can just drag it in our file. Now you want to make sure to put this behind all those layers because this will be in the background. So let's just first find a nice spot for this. We can even make it bigger or smaller if you want. Maybe make it bigger to fill this whole area up. Something like this. Right, so this is fine. Now, this building looks way too light for this time of the day. It looks like night here. So we want to make sure the building is at night. So it's time to make this building darker. We're doing this by adding some curves to this, like we always do. And don't forget to press this. So we only affect that layer underneath it. And let's just drop all these highlights. Now this building needs a bit more contrast. It looks grayish to me. I want it more black. So for this, I could just take the middle point here and drag it like this. And you can see here, it looks a lot better. Now I still want to see some light from this building. So for this, I'm going to create a new curve. Press this again. And let's bring up these highlights. And also take the midtones and move it a bit like that. So play around with these settings to create some nice contrast here and have some highlights to make it look realistic like that. Let's make the background a bit more exciting than this. So first I want to do is I want to create some light, more light in the background, like a horizon. So let's just first select something like this fire, yellowish, and create a new layer underneath this building. Now, if we just make a dot like this, make sure you have here opacity at 100, flow at 100, and the hardness at 0, just a normal soft round brush. And let's make a dot like that. Now let's move this dot now down here, and we can even make this bigger if you want. And now you can see we get a lot more light now in the background, which makes it a lot better to look at. If it looks a bit yellowish now. So to change this color, I'm just gonna press Ctrl Command U to bring up the hue transform. And here I can change the color of this light. So if I wanna make it like more white like this, I can just increase this. You can also just move these sliders around if you want more red or something like this. This is just what you like most. I like to have it a bit lighter, like a bit more to the white. Let's leave it like that, bit orange, red. Something like this would be fine. Press OK, and now we have like this cool lighting in the background. And we can also just press Ctrl J to duplicate it and maybe move it to that side also to create some nice highlights here in the background. Maybe even one more. You can also put it behind this building, but I think I like it dark on that side. So let's just leave it like this. This is fine. Now we can also give this building some highlights. So for this, I want to go to this building on this layer above it and create a new layer and just make this dot again. But let's make it small like this. And the only thing I have to do here is change the blend mode to overlay and put it in these windows. So you can see here, it gets this highlight now. And now we can just press Ctrl J to duplicate it if we want more of these highlights. Let's put them both in a folder by holding down Shift, selecting both, and click on this folder. So we have now this folder with this highlight. And if I press Ctrl J, I can duplicate this and move it to another floor, maybe another floor, maybe stretch it out like that if you want to. Let's move it up. Let's also do here. So stuff like this to get nice highlights in some different areas. Maybe even here if you want to. So this, you can play around with this to get some light in this design. Now, I don't want to highlight everything. I just want a couple of these places, because if you're going to highlight everything, you're taking all the attention away from this person. And I think this is the most important thing in this composite. So I'm just going to do a couple of these, maybe one or two like that, 2 floors. That's it. Right? So this is really easy to achieve light like that. And now we have the design idea pretty much done. So the next step is to improve things. And this is actually the fun part of the whole process. Now you can just add stuff like flying particles around, or maybe other stuff like light effects in this background. But let's start with doing some particles. I have this photo here, and the easiest way to create particles is to just use photos. You can find like fire particles on stock websites. I have this photo here. So the only thing I have to do is to put this in this design and change blend mode to screen. And you can see how cool this already looks. And we get a lot more of details, and I think it looks a lot more professional than without all this stuff. But it's too much now. It's also a bit blue. So what I'm going to do here is to create a curves layer on top of this. Press this and bring these midtones down so it's blend this image better, so we don't get too much of that blue. But the blue is also pretty cool. So if you want to make it a bit more colorful, you can use that blue. And later on, when you finalize things like doing color balance, you can get rid of that blue if it's too much. But I like to have more control of my design, so I'm gonna get rid of this blue for now and just do it like this. Now, these particles are maybe a bit too much now. They are like a lot of particles now. So what I'm going to do is create a mask and select the black brush and get rid of some of these particles so it doesn't really take all the space in this design. So let's just get rid of a couple of these. Now you can see here this blue, you can see here when we brush, it doesn't look so right. So the best way to fix this is to press Command L, select the black picker and select that. So we get rid of all that blue now. And this is what I like. I like it to have it more like this. And maybe you want to leave some particles like 50%. So you can just drop here the opacity of the brush and just get rid of them a bit, not much. So it don't take too much like attention in this design. Because you don't want to ruin the design with these particles, you would just want to improve your design. If that makes sense. Right? I think they're also a bit red to me. So what I'm going to do is create the hue saturation on top of them and get rid of this color a bit. Maybe a bit more orange like that. I think this looks better. Right? So that's pretty easy to achieve that. The next thing you could do to make this better is this sniper here. Let's press right mouse and rasterize this layer and select the blur tool. And with the blur tool, we can blur out these edges a bit. And that way, this image blends better with the background. So you don't see this hard line on the edge. So just go around the edge like that, just a little bit to make this better. These are all little things to make it better. So if you want to make everything like perfect, these are all the things you should do to get the best result at the end. Right, so just do it like this, this, and this. And that's fine. Now, next thing to do is this building here. What I would do here is I would blur this out because I want to have all this focus on this guy here. So you need to rasterize this layer of this building and give it a lens blur. And that's pretty much it. I don't change these settings here. I usually just leave them like this. I only check this radius here to see how much blur do I want. Maybe something like this. Press OK, and that's fine. And you can see here we just blurred out this background. Now, the only problem here is we get this white border you can see here that doesn't look right. So what I would do is press Command or Control and click on the layer to make the selection. Then go to Select, Modify, Contract, and let's say maybe 5 pixels. You can see it goes inside and make a mask, and those white things are gone. Maybe it needed even more, but you get the basic idea. Right, so now you can see here it looks a lot more professional because it has the idea like a real photo. When you take a photo and you put a focus on this, the stuff in the background will be blurred out. So this looks a lot better to me. Okay, if you want to create light effects coming from, for instance, these highlighted areas in the background here, maybe here, it's really easy to do if you just create a layer on top of everything. Select the normal brush, bring the opacity and flow all the way up to 100, and bring the hardness at 0. Now, if we select here a color, something like this, and then really almost white, let's first just make a dot here, like that, and change this blend mode to screen. And you can resize this and you have some cool light effects coming through. And usually I try to put it in between these areas, maybe here a bit, and then just press Ctrl J to duplicate it, maybe one here. And if it looks too white, you don't want to have it too white, you can press Ctrl U, press colorize, and bring the lightness a bit down and try to find a color that fits this background. So for this, I would maybe a little bit lighter, a little bit more color, like that. And that's it. Now let's just duplicate this one and move it there. And you can see how easy it is to create like these nice highlights here coming from the background. So those are little things to make this better. Sometimes you don't even need to do this. Sometimes it ruins the image. So maybe I wouldn't even do this for this one, but I'm just going to show you how it's done and how easy it is. So just like that, and that's fine for me. Maybe this one is too much. All right, now we can do some final adjustments to this. So for this, first thing to do is to go all the way up on top of all the layers and create a new layer and press Ctrl or Command Alt Shift E. So we duplicated this layer. Now, if you press right mouse and convert this to a smart object, then go to Filter, Camera Raw. And here we can do some final adjustments. If your camera raw looks a bit different, you might have an older version, but the settings should be all the same. And here you can finalize the image by setting the right colors and doing some final adjustments. So maybe let's make it a bit more like that. And play around with the settings until you have the perfect image. So usually I use these sliders just to go from left to right, maybe a bit less contrast, or else it gets too dark in the background. You can eventually increase the highlights here if you want some really popping out, but I like to keep it realistic, so I'm not going to do that. Let's also move these shadows, maybe a bit darker shadows. Let's do some whites here. Let's do a bit more whites. And the blacks, let's do it like that. And if we drop the texture here, you can see this image gets really soft, like a game. And maybe add some clarity so it doesn't lose the details. So this is really cool to achieve something really cool at the end. Now let's also move this one, maybe a bit more dehaze. And the vibrance. Usually I try to use less colorful images for night shots. So this is at night, so you might want to drop this a bit to the left. Not much. All right, let's move on to curves. Usually I don't touch that one. And sharpening, I always give it a bit more sharpening. And color mix, here we can change the colors a bit. So you can play with these settings, maybe move it a bit to that side and find some nice color tones for this whole image. Let's see, maybe these are nothing. And then some saturation here. I think I like it like this. I'm not gonna touch these. And some last things to do is you can give it a bit of a vignette, just a little bit, and do some calibration here to set the colors like you want to. So just play around with these settings and see how this changes your image to make it better. Right, I think I like it like this. I'm gonna press OK. And you can see the difference. This was before, this after. The colors got really cooler now. Now, next thing to do is to give it a curves on top of everything to make these lights really pop out here. And you can drop this one a bit to the right to make it a bit darker. Right, so next thing to do is to also do some color balance. And here you can make the colors even better. So give it a bit of a blue cyan to get that cinematic look if you want to, or more red if you want to have it more warm tones. Usually I do it like this. Right, so this is fine. Now you can also add some color look up here. Some LUT, maybe 3 strip will work to get some colors popping out, and just drop the opacity here so it doesn't affect this too much. Right, and if you want to make this look really like a game or something, you can just import the logo here, change the blend mode to screen, and you can tell everyone you created the Call of Duty cover. There's one little thing that you can also do to make this even look cooler, and that is to select this layer here from everything, our final layer, and go to filter, blur gallery, and select field blur. And with this, we can blur some areas out. So of course the middle center shouldn't be blurred out. So we can change the settings here to 0. And if we hold down Alt, we can copy the settings. So let's put some points here on the areas that we do not want to affect, right? So these areas we don't want to affect. But here we can add some blur to this to make this look a little bit like more like a game. And you can see here, this is really cool to just give it that final touch to it. Maybe a bit also here, just like these little blur effects to make this look cool. Maybe also here. And this will make the image look like better quality on these areas, right? So maybe not here. Let's move it there. Just a couple of these areas blurred out to get that effect. Maybe also behind them if you want. So you can just play around with these and don't do it too much. Just do it like a little bit on some areas to create some nice depth. Right, so that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this class and learned something new. And don't forget to rate this class if you liked it. And I hope to see you on the next one.